Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first episode of the Ponderers Podcast. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do visually to set this up. I might just have this screen up here, or I can just let y'all look at my background, but I want to also keep track of what's like recording, but I don't think it's that important. I'll just open it up to start and stop the episodes. Also, if the audio is super low, I apologize. I don't know how to make it sound louder without the mic cutting out because I don't want it to be like too loud. But it is what it is. So, um, welcome to the Ponders Podcast. Today's episode, I honestly just went into this out of nowhere. I was slacking off. I hadn't made an episode. I said I was gonna start the podcast, so I might just talk out of my ass for a bit. So, I guess the first episode could be about ego, off the top of my head, ego. And I guess why do we have an ego? What is there to like be so proud of? Because as we all know, ego is just like us being full of ourselves, right? Us believing in us, having the confidence of a fucking god. And I know a couple of times I've tried breaking my ego. And some of you may be saying, "Oh, breaking ego, what? Ego death." Yeah, I tried doing a fucking crazy amount of just acid, shrooms, everything. And I took 6 G's of shrooms and I went into the desert and I just sat out there for 6 hours in like 100 and something degree weather. Do not try that at home. But what I had realized by the end of it was during the entire trip I'd broken my self-consciousness down so much there was no ego to kill. I couldn't have an ego death because I'd become self-aware of everything. I couldn't be full of myself because I'd already torn apart everything that there was during the leading up to the peak of a shroom. And that's where you have the ego death. But I had already been like, well, this is where this comes from. I had already broken down my psyche. I was like, this is where this behavior comes from. This is where this trait of mine comes from. And I already found like the origin of all of my traits. I like the origin, how I behave, why, and I just broken it down and there was no ego to kill. And I don't know anyone personally that's had ego death, and to this day I strive to find it, and people always look at me weird. They're like, why would you want ego death? And the reason why I want to experience ego death is to have that experience of looking outside of myself, being able to like self-reflect more than I already have. I want to be able to look at myself completely unbiased. I want to see myself as just another person that I walk by in the halls, and I never see those people in the halls again, but I always wonder what their lives are. And I live my own life, and I want to see myself from an outside perspective. Who am I specifically? What do I do? What am I? Like, what's my purpose? But that's a topic for another day. But back to ego. I think personally, ego comes from us wanting, like the human spirit. I think it comes from us just wanting to always be better. It's this want, it's this need. I need to be better. I need to be better than either, my friends, my family, the people around me. And it's good to have that like competition sense. Like, I can always be a little better. I can always be a little stronger, a little smarter. And wanting that is completely understandable, but excuse me, wanting that is completely understandable. Because, I mean, what is self, what's self-improvement? That's what self-improvement is. Oh, I want to be better, so I'll do this. Oh, I want to be like smarter, so I'll do this. And yeah, self-improvement's good, but it's when you take it to an extreme, like ego. Having a fragile ego bad idea because you feel like you're on top of the world. You feel like you're the best at everything. You feel you can't be toppled. You're a king in your own mind, and you think you're a king to everyone else around you. But it's when that ego comes crashing down that it affects you so deeply because you've been seeing yourself with rose-tinted glasses for so long that once the shades come off, you're blinded by your true self. You're blinded by having to look at yourself with an unbiased viewpoint. And that can be horrible for some people because some people go through their entire lives thinking they're the shit, they're the best, I'm the best, I've always been the best. And they just have that mentality. And when the day comes that they are given a reality check, it can be it can be horrible. It can, like I said, ego death. I've been trying to achieve it, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But back to what I was saying, it can be pretty wild. Me personally, I don't know if I said this before. I don't know anyone personally that has experienced ego death. I don't surround myself with people who think they're the best or tough shit. I don't think there's a lot of people that think that way, but I've met a couple, like a very select few that do think they're the shit. And sometimes I just wonder, hey, what would it do to that person if they got the reality check that they deserve? And not in a like hurtful, like, what is it? I can't find the word, but like in a harmful way. I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean just out of like pure human curiosity, because human curiosity is a fucking wild thing. It's led us to for leaps and bounds. I'll get to that in a second, but I want to finish my ego point. What would it be like for someone who's thought their entire life that they're the shit? I'm the best. I've always been the best. Even before my existence, the idea of me is the greatest. I was meant to be the greatest. What would it feel like for someone to have that image of them just shattered? Like their not their hopes and dreams, but you've been living in a clouded fog your entire life. So the day when the sun finally shows up and clears the fog, what's it like being able to look around and see things from a much clearer perspective? Because the world isn't all about you. I don't know why I'm saying this, but maybe someone needs to hear this. The world isn't all about you, and it never will be. It just can't. You're a one person. My bad, y'all. My mic cut out. I forgot that if I'm not in a game or in a group chat, party chat, my mic will think it's just on for no reason and it'll cut out. So that's my apologies. I'll see if I can fix that somehow. I might just like sit in a Discord channel and that might work out. That's brilliant. I might do that next episode. I'll just stick to the animated background for now. Um, but yeah, like what would it be like having just that idea of you shattered? Because like I said before, you've lived a certain way for so long, and the human brain is a powerful, just a powerful thing because there's the placebo effect, there's like the imaginary, there's things that we believe are real and they never were real in the first place. So the human mind is very powerful. So imagine having the most powerful thing in your existence just turned against you. And I just think that'd be horrifying, honestly. I think it'd be terrifying. As much as I like to say, oh, imagine having that big of an ego, or we like to say, oh, I could never be that full of myself. You can't imagine it, but if you could, it'd be pretty, pretty fucking horrible. But I guess now would be a good time to change the topic. I don't want to bore you guys with just me yapping about that. No one to bounce off of. I guess what we could cover next is I wasn't prepared for this. I guess what we could cover next is like coping. Coping is a pretty good topic. Let's do that. But coping, why why do we cope? Obviously, it's coping. It's in the name. We try to deal with things that have happened to us in the past in our own way and all that jazz. But as you've all probably heard before, not all coping mechanisms are positive. Some of them are negative, some of them aren't the best, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not gonna lie, I used to try and cope. Uh, what is it? I used to try and find pleasure in coping in the things around me instead of within me. The problems that I had were internal, obviously. Not a lot of my problems have been external, but the problems I had personally were internal. But I tried finding solution in external objects, like just external things. I'd I do dumb shit. I'm not gonna get into it, but I do some dumb shit, and I'd always think, oh, this is better. I'd rather be doing this than sitting at home and thinking and like just rotting in my room. I'd always think that. I always think, oh, this is better than rotting in my room. But I mean, honestly, not exactly. That's not all mechanisms are good, and let's be honest, not everything is better than just sitting in a room. Sometimes you need that rotting in your room day. You need to take a break. You need to self-reflect. Who knows? Your schedule is your schedule, man. I'm not gonna self-project onto you. But I think coping coping is something unique to everyone. We all have our own ways of coping, and sometimes I wonder why. Why did we develop the need for coping? It makes sense, like just thinking about it, like, oh, you dealt with something like bad, you had to go through some hard times, and you're gonna do something to feel better, or you're gonna do something to make you feel less shitty about the bad thing that happened. In hindsight, that, or not in hindsight, but like externally, that makes sense because, well, oh, you dealt with something, you're going through something, you need something to help deal with it. But like looking deeper on it, sometimes I wonder why. Why do we need to cope? We could just deal with it. And I don't know if those two words are synonymous. Again, I could be talking out of my ass. But I feel like dealing with something and taking it at face value and handling it right then and there is better than just finding like a coping mechanism and just not dealing with it at all. And that sound I think that sounds fucking horrible now that I'm saying it out loud. Like, oh, deal with it, be a man, don't cope. But some people probably need to cope. Like honestly, some people might just not be ready to deal with that thing. It could be a very tough subject for them. And I can honestly understand that. I'm not gonna judge because some people need that extra time, need that like extra thought process. Maybe they just need to not think about the thing that happened to them. And but me personally, I have a very straightforward brain. I'm just like, oh, deal with it or don't deal with it, or just straightforward. This happened, I can solve it by doing this, boom, problem solved. My brain goes, oh, I have a problem, I'll solve it. If I can't solve it now, I'll solve it at the soonest possibility, and that's just the end of it. But obviously, not everyone works on the same wavelength as my dumbass. And some people probably, like I said, they just don't work that way. And being able to understand, like, not being able to completely deal with it at that moment should probably be a human, what is it, like a human mechanism that we all should learn. But before I continue rambling on about this topic that I'm running out of things to say about, I'll move on to understanding human conditioning. Or not human conditioning, but y'all know what I mean. Like the ability to understand other people. In we're complex beings living in a simple world, in my opinion. And we are one of the few sentient like beings, like living things that has the ability to feel emotion, like compassion. And that sounds pretty close-minded. Imagine, like, oh, we're the peak of evolution, we're the best, we're the only ones in the world. That sounds selfish, but let's be honest, you don't really see like a fish feeling bad for another fish. You just see the fish living and trying to survive. Or you don't see a like a bird like feeling bad over other birds like dying. They're just like, ooh, food. But then again, there was that one time where like a goose mourned her eggs because they all got smashed. So I think I'm gonna retract that statement. I was talking out of my ass there. I apologize. But I think, I don't know, I'm trying to express the words that I'm thinking without sounding like a jackass. I think we're one of the only beings, not one of the only, but we're one of the few beings that can express our emotions and understand other emotions around us and have it affect other beings. Because us as a oh, fuck, I can't speak English, but us as a human race, we grew like we evolved to be in a group. We evolved as a society because we are pack animals. Bigger numbers will survive. That's how we survived for so long. But obviously, along with big numbers, we're gonna have to find a way to communicate, understand, deal with each other, right? Without, ripping each other's heads off. But um I feel as communication and understanding have gotten more complicated over time because us as humans have gotten more complicated over time. Obviously, some adult now isn't the same as some adult like back in the Paleolithic era or whatever. Like, you know what I mean, like a caveman. I feel like life is way more complex now, and you see people like complaining about it all the time. They're just like, "Oh, things used to be more simpler back then." Like you see old people talk about it all the time, like, "Oh, I miss when there wasn't so much technology. I miss my cottage. I miss my grandparents' like cottage in the Alps." It's completely understandable, a simple life. Everyone wants a simpler life. Not all of us want a complex life that like always stimulated. I hate that always being stimulated. Sometimes it's nice to just take a break from everything. Just sit in silence and think. Maybe not even think, just breathe. Sit back and take in the world around you. You are living in a moment that will never be available again. You are a snapshot of the universe. What you're living in right now is a miracle in and of itself. The fact that we have gotten to this point in time where we can look back on our achievements as a human race and we can look back on how we grew as just a species is groundbreaking. No other species can do that. No other species is able to look back on their evolution, their history, how they became what they are today. We can do that. We are the universe looking back on itself. And my mic cut out again. I was just about to reach some enlightening fucking, like, I was about to reach the third plane of existence, or like fourth plane. But as I was saying, we are the universe looking back on itself. Nothing else that we know of can do that. We can look at the stars, point them out, rename them. Those names don't matter. They're just our way of saying, oh, we can analyze this, we can see this, we can do that. The human mark that we have on the world right now, it's impactful, sure. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. And I don't mean to be a nihilist. I think that just makes life a more precious thing. The fact that we as humans are able to understand how precious life is, how crazy the situation like we are in as a human race, we're able to understand our situation as just a planet, as a galaxy on a huge scale. Just imagine you are a clump of cells, a massive clump of cells, and in on a droplet of rock and water. in a solar system of other planets that don't inhabit life, in a galaxy full of other planets, stars, black holes, other like spatial astronomical bodies who also don't inhabit life in a universe that, as we know of, doesn't inhabit life in a multiverse that who knows what's in those other universes. It's a crazy thought to have. And there's something after the multiverse. A friend of mine told me, I forgot what the name was though. And I just find it crazy that as far as we know, we are the only thing in the universe that can look to the stars and think. And that sounds super anticlimactic, but I really mean it. Think. Think about where you are, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and what led to this moment in time. Everything you have now was a result of other things leading up to it. And that sounds like super basic, like, oh, wow, you just described life. But let me try describing it a bit better. You are the result of a million dice rolls hitting all six. You are the result of every single flip of a coin landing on what you chose. Or not what you chose, but what the universe chose, however you want to look at it. You are a miracle. There are more people that will never be born than there are people who have been born, who have gotten the chance at life. Life is a precious thing that most things that have the ability to become life will never experience. You get to breathe, you get to live, you get to walk, you get to swim, you get to look. You can look out into the distance and you can observe. And I think we take that for granted oftentimes. Oh, I don't have the newest car. Oh, I don't have the newest phone. Oh, I want to get this. Oh, I want to get that. I feel oftentimes we take the fact that we are even alive for granted. There's a bunch of people that are like, "Oh, I never asked to be born. I never wanted to live. I don't like living." And if you feel that way, I sincerely hope that you find a way. I hope you find your meaning in life because life is precious. And there's a bunch of nihilism, like, "Oh, life doesn't have meaning. Whatever, whatever." I'm, what is it? I think the name for what I believe in is absurdism, and it's the fact that, yeah, life doesn't seem to have a meaning. We're pretty insignificant compared to the universe, but why should that stop you from wanting to achieve something in your life? Why should that stop you from wanting to leave your mark on this world, however small? Because, sure, when you look at it from such an astronomical scale as the universe, you punching the shit out of a guy that you don't like doesn't seem that important. But if you want to punch the shit out of a guy, punch the shit out of a guy. You only live once, right? Don't do that. Don't do that actually. But y'all know what I mean. Shoot your shot, man. Ask that girl out. Do some dumb shit. Fucking jump off a fucking, I don't know, jump off a fence. Go trespass onto private property. I don't know. I'm not advocating the use of the doing of illegal activities, but what I'm trying to say is live life to the fullest because the worst part about living is that you only get to do it once. There's a quote that I forgot who said it, but it's there's two lives that you lead. The first one is when you're just living, you're living your life, being a retard, you know how it is, just living life. And then the second one is when you realize you only have one. I did a horrible requote of whatever quote I was trying to like what is it, repeat. But I think whoever knows the quote will get it. But the point is, for a while, you live life like you're invincible. I don't know about you guys, but I lived life like I was invincible. I was like, I can bounce back from anything. And then I realized I only get one shot at this. And depending on what you believe in, you can believe in reincarnation. Oh, there's the afterlife, there's this, there's that. But if we're talking just completely from what we can observe as humans, you live, or you're born, you live, you experience, and you die. Hold on. Excuse me, my bad. But you're born, you live, you experience, and then you die. And it's crazy how fast that happens. We get, I don't know, 80, 90 years tops. Who knows? We can never know how long we have on this earth. There's always something, there's always another hidden variable that we can never calculate for. But again, let's look at things from a larger scale. 80, 90 years is nothing. We are a blip, a snapshot. I think I said that before, but we are a snapshot of life, of the universe. What we live in now is just a tiny fraction, a blip of everything on a much grander scale. And again, that sounds like super nihilistic, super pessimistic, but it's not. It shouldn't be. If you look at life that way, you can look at life that way. I'm not going to stop you. But me personally, I think that having that ability to look back and say, wow, I am not that big of a deal. Having that ability is just groundbreaking to me. I find it super enlightening. Because, I mean, sure, we can always say, oh, this will be the end of the world, or oh, this, like, whatever you're about to do, you can be like, oh, I feel like I'm going to die. I feel like this is the end of the world. I don't know what I'm going to do after this. You'll survive. You'll live. You always have. You can always bounce back. It's like BMO said. What is it? BMO always bounces back. And no matter what happens, despite everything, it's still you. You are still who you want to be, or what you want to achieve, who you want to be, whatever, all that. And I think that kind of leads to what I want to talk about next, and that what makes you you. And I don't want to talk about like, oh, what are your traits? What are your hobbies? What are your things? No, like what makes a human? What constitutes being like a humanoid, or not a humanoid, but y'all know what I mean. We're a human race. What makes you a human? Uh, is it your hand? Because it's not your hand. Everything has a hand. When you cut off, say I cut off my hand, you'd say, oh my God, you just cut off your hand. You wouldn't say you cut off you. You say you cut off your hand. You cut off your hand. Or, oh, I cut my hand. I just repeated myself, but my bad. You just cut off your hand. Oh, I cut off my hand. If you chop off a leg, you're like, oh, I just chopped off my leg. Oh my God, you chopped off your leg. You don't say, oh, I chopped me off. And that, sure, that can be just, oh, it's a grammar thing, bro. That's so dumb. You're making out of nothing. No, 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 no. Hear me out on this. Because even if you're like a nugget, right? And that's horrible, but let's just say you're a nugget, right? I think obviously you're still a human. Sure, you don't have any limbs, but you're still a human. And at what point does our body, because that's what we call it, right? Our body, it's not us, it's our body. At what point does, like on the line, does it become actually us? Because our flesh, that's just our flesh. Again, our bones, again, our bones. I'm gonna keep going for a bit. I'm not gonna like repeat everything for a second time, but our flesh, our bones, our fingers, our nervous system, our rib cage, like everything. Third time my mic cut out. I'm gonna have to find a way to better record these things, but like I was talking about before, what makes us us? Because again, that could like it could go as far as fucking forever. Oh, it's our brain. Oh, our mind. Oh, our thoughts. What honestly, what makes us us? And I don't have the answer to that. I can't really talk about it for too long because I'll just keep yapping. And this is why having someone on the podcast would really be helpful. I need someone to bounce off of. But um just I just find it crazy that we as a human race, we don't know what makes us us. And oh yeah, your hobbies, your ideals, your whatever. But as a human, what gives us sentience? What's so special about our brains or our lives that gives us the ability to self-reflect, like look back? Because not every living thing can self-reflect and look back. I'm assuming we can all agree on that. Like ants aren't able to look back and self-reflect. I'm assuming. I could be just making stuff up, but and I'm assuming ants aren't able to self-reflect, look back on their decisions, and be able to mourn, regret, or be proud of those decisions. And who knows, honestly. I as a person, I think that our personalities give us our meaning. Not our meaning, but that's what makes us human. And by saying all our personalities, I basically just retcon everything I said. What the fuck do you mean, man? Didn't you just say, oh, you can't say your hobbies or this, whatever? No, I am gonna retcon what I kind of said though, because our personalities are more than just, oh, our hobbies, our interests, our likes. It's a sum of the impact the world had on us leading up to who we are now. Because everyone is unique, right? Everyone is a human in our human race is unique, and that's crazy. No other species in the world is as unique as we are. Someone can look like you, but they don't behave like you. Someone can behave like you, they don't look like you. They could have both, but they didn't grow up in the same situation you did. And even if they did again, the stars never align perfectly for you to match up with someone like that. I don't think there's been a point in history where someone has been another carbon copy of another person. There's just so many influences, objects, things around you. The world around you is always changing, and so are you. You, as a human, have the ability to change. You, as a human, are the universe looking back on itself. I want to repeat that because I find it really important. You have the ability to look out into space and think this is beautiful. You are the universe and you are beautiful. But I think that will be the end of today's episode. I don't want to keep you guys too long. Me just sitting here yapping by myself. This was a last minute episode and I just wanted to get something out because I didn't want to leave you guys hanging for so long. I said I'd start the podcast, so I started it. Hopefully, I can get some people on soon. I hope. Hopefully, some people are down to yap with me for a while. But if you did enjoy this episode, thank you for sticking around so long. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. And make sure to always ponder, man. Because, like I said, you only live once, and you can always look back on the universe.